Have you ever met someone and immediately been able to feel the energy and passion they have? The guest on today's episode was definitely one of those experiences for me. I was able to sit down with Mr. Johnny Priest, who's a true leader of leaders in our industry. We talk about the hard work, sacrifice, and loyalty that it took for him to get there, and when to grab onto those opportunities as they arise. We go into a little bit about what it means to potty train the new people as they come into the industry, and so many more valuable things about just being a successful human being. While I was there, Johnny handed me this book, and it was one of the kindest gestures I've ever received. You'll have to watch the episode to figure out the meaning of the book and why he gave it to me. But I'm telling you, be ready, because this episode has something for everyone in it. From the top of the pyramid to the bottom, you can learn something from this conversation. Let's talk about it. You're listening to PowerGridTalks, from the bucket trucks to the boardrooms. I'm your host, Tom Williamson, a journeyman lineman with over 15 years in the trade. Here we bring you real stories and real conversations from the field to the executive suites of the electric utility world. It's about the people who keep the power flowing and the grid strong. Let's get to work. All right, so on this episode of PowerGridTalks, we're here in North Carolina talking to Mr. Johnny Priest, who has spent probably the majority of his lifetime working in the industry and has some great experiences to share with us. Johnny, how are we doing today?
Doing great. It's really good to see you, Thomas. Good to meet you, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
So let's talk about the industry in general, right? I know you started at a pretty young age. So when did you get started in the industry?
Okay, I actually got a job with Duke Power.
Okay.
It was Duke Power at the time.
Yep.
In 1967.
Nice. Okay.
But I had the job about 4 months before I turned 18.
No kidding.
And when I went over and did all the testing and everything, they come back to me and said, I got home and my mother told me, said, that person from Duke called you. So I called him back and he said, you can't come to work yet. You're not 18. And I said, so what do I do? He said, you come to work the day after your 18th birthday. So on October the 9th, 1967, I actually showed up at the Toddville field office, and the whole purpose was to learn to be a lineman. But unlike a lot of young people today that struggle with what they want to be, I knew when I was 12 years old what I wanted to be.
Did you know somebody already doing it?
My grandfather.
Okay.
Over in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So
he was that pillar you looked up to.
He was. And then I would sit in school and look out the windows and just wait on a Duke truck to come by. Just so I could say that's where I want to be. And I probably would have quit school and tried to go to work for him, but mother would have killed me.
Yeah. Yeah, she wanted to make sure you at least finished, right?
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. So I just hung in there with school and then got the job, learned, went to work bundling steel for transmission out of a steel yard, and then moved on up to tower building, wire stringing, and did the line construction for Duke for about 7 years.
That's awesome.
The first 7 years. And then they started a maintenance crew up in Yadkinville, North Carolina, a transmission maintenance crew. And I wanted to learn that side of the business. I knew how to build it.
Yep.
But I wanted to go learn how to maintain it, how to work it hot.
Adds that extra challenge part, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was like, and that's the best decision I ever made, because that gives you a more well-rounded approach to what all the line work is about.
Yeah. Yep.
But then at the same time, when we were up there, we supported the distribution group during major storms, or if they had a project that was a tough landscape, they would call me and say, hey, do you want to look at building this line? Or they'd call us in the middle of the night and say, come help us put some of this stuff back up, because it starts to get pretty mountainous up there.
I guarantee it.
And we had all the 4-wheel drive stuff back then.
Yeah, that's all right away was, right? Transmission was always right away back then.
But we had no bucket truck.
Yeah, no.
I mean, that wasn't part of the outfitting that they gave you, because you climbed everything. You
I
know,
love
you
that
rigged
aspect.
everything.
And I think a lot of people in today's world lose that, right? They don't understand what it was. So in 1967, when you hired into Duke Power, what did a crew look like? How many people were on a crew?
On a transmission crew, there was about, well, this was construction
Yep.
now. After I got off the tower building, which was about 10 people, and moved into construction, then they may be 30 to 35 people, but they all did different things.
Well, and that's because the work was hard.
Oh, it was hard and there was a lot of it. So you started off doing this task and you learned that task, and then all of a sudden they'd move you to the next task so you could learn it.
Yeah.
So you went through everything, and then finally you ended up on the wire gang, which is pulling the stringing wire and catching off and clipping in and doing that kind of stuff. And it was just a lot of fun.
So no bucket trucks.
No bucket trucks.
A lot of these transmission jobs today have these monster cranes. Did you guys have a crane to set the poles with?
We did have a crane sometimes, but we gin poled a lot.
Okay. So a lot of rigging, a lot of figuring stuff
rigging,
out.
A lot
Yeah.
of rigging, but we gin poled a lot of towers. Without
awesome.
a crane,
Yep.
we gin poled poles without a.
There's so many guys that are losing that art in this industry today because the equipment and stuff is so good. You don't have to gym pole stuff a lot. You don't have to do a lot of extra rigging all the time like you guys had to do. And I think that's pretty awesome whenever I talk to guys who have started even, in the 70s era is what I call that, right?
Yeah.
It was just a different mindset and a different way to do the work. So in 1967, when you started, what was the entry wage? About how much would an entry level groundman make at that point?
Well,
Average?
I was working it for American Eford, which
Yep.
is in the cotton mill, because this whole area here was cotton. It was textile.
Gotcha.
So I was working there when I turned 16. I went to work for American Eford, and when I left them and went to work for Duke, I was making $1.47 an hour.
$1.47.
And but
was
that
excited.
That was above the 85 cents that I was making for the meal.
Oh my goodness.
So I went from 85 cents to $1.47, and it was so funny, Thomas. I'd look, and you'd know what everybody made,
Yeah.
and you'd see what a top journeyman was making, and it was like $5 and something. I thought, if I ever get to that $5, I am wealthy.
You've got it
I
licked.
have got it made.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no doubt that you're on the gravy train then.
I just think that's amazing and how that's evolved. I was talking to a 19-year-old kid the other day that was wanting to be in the industry, and he was telling me how the only offers he's gotten so far were for $15 an hour, and that just wasn't enough. And I looked at him, I'm like, what do you mean it's not? If $15 an hour to start isn't enough, and that's the industry you want to be in, you need to change some things, right?
Yeah.
Much less than $2. It would blow his mind.
But the wages have changed a lot,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that I look back at now. I've been in the industry 58 years. I'll be 77 before long. And, seeing there was a period of time in the early 70s where wages got really frozen, and nobody was given increases because you had the recession stuff, you had the oil embargo, you had all that kind of stuff. But then even after that, the wages for a lineman, for a top journeyman, were kind of froze. I mean, it was like nobody wanted to pay more than $23 an hour, and it was like, this job deserves a lot more than $23 an hour.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, as more and more work started to show up, the laws of economics kicked in finally, and guys are getting really good pay now, and I am so pleased with that as somebody that came through the ranks.
Yeah.
To see these guys making the kind of money they're making right now, and I was excited about the fact that hopefully they don't have to pay taxes on overtime, which is going to be even better for those guys, because I mean that's the lifeblood.
That's exactly it.
Of being a lineman is, in this industry, the lifeblood is that the people that will come into this industry and stay in this industry.
Yep.
And interesting enough, I found that in my career that if you hire somebody to start learning, to come into the job, if they stay for a year, they stay. Most of the time, by the end of a year, it's in their blood,
Okay.
and they'll stick with it. I mean, it's no longer a job; it becomes one of their careers.
Yeah.
And they get to the point that they like the people they're working with, and if they don't like the people they're working with, they just change the company and go somewhere else. But if they like the people they're working with, they're tough through the hard times, and the aggravating times and the mismanagement times.
Yeah.
They'll stick with it because it's part of what they do. It's a pride
Yeah. Yeah.
that they have in themselves
The
to be
pride
a
and the
lineman.
passion, right? The pride and
Oh,
the passion lead this industry.
Oh yeah.
And they'll go through all of the manual labor, the blood, sweat, and tears, all of that stuff, just to say, oh, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. I'm a lineman.
Oh, I always loved it whenever they would come to me with the harder jobs. And like, yeah, I'll take that job. Oh,
Yeah.
they didn't want it? Yeah, give that job to us. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll take it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I said, it's just that pride of being able to say, yeah, I can do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to that. So how long were you at Duke Power, and how did you kind of stair step your career while you were there?
Okay, I was a lineman in transmission and distribution for just about 23 years.
Okay.
But what I decided to do is I decided my knees started hurting, had to have one of them operated on, and I thought I gotta do something different. So I went back to school at night.
Okay.
And I went to Surrey Community College up in Elkin, Mount Airy, North Carolina. Got my associate's degree at night.
That's awesome.
And then they came along after I got that. Duke came along and said, "Listen, we got a foreman's job down in Newberry, South Carolina." I said, "Where's Newberry, South Carolina?" So I took the job, and I went down there. I had a $50 a month raise to relocate my family and go to Newberry, South Carolina. Great place to live, great people down there. And that was my first soiree into management, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we had a ball. I mean, the guys that I went down there and they were on that maintenance crew down there, I knew construction.
Mm-hmm.
So when something had to be built or something had to be repaired, I knew how to do that. And they had been in maintenance most of their careers, so they weren't real familiar with going up a tower and changing out an insulator string, that kind of stuff. So actually, even though I moved into management, I still climbed and ran bucket trucks for the next 5 years.
Okay.
I mean, to show them
That transition period.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it was, to me, it was hard to give up them hooks.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the hardest decision about it, right?
It is.
Yeah.
I hated giving up those hooks because I love doing the work, And so I spent some time down there. And then they pulled me back into the Charlotte office for a 3-year period of time to be a part of what they called the re-engineering group.
Okay.
So we spent a year and a half mapping out all the processes that Duke operated by. And then we spent another year and a half redesigning, re-engineering all those processes to take out all the duplicate steps and
all the inefficiencies.
Yeah, all the inefficiencies.
Yep.
Work through that. And then at the end of that, they came up with a plan that they were going to lay off people or they were going to downsize.
Yep.
And the reason they were going to downsize is corporate management, rightfully so, made a decision they wanted to outsource more of the work.
Yep.
Until that time, Duke was self-performing a lot of their own work with their own people. And part of it was that they felt like they had too many people and they wanted to downsize.
Okay.
So they were going to have a layoff. And I was lucky enough that I had a good relationship with the CEO at Duke that I went to him with a proposal. And I said, let me take the people that you're going to lay off out of this and move them over into Duke Engineering and Services, which was their unregulated engineering group, mostly nuclear.
Gotcha.
And I said, I'll set up shop and we'll compete with Pike and the other big companies out there doing transmission distribution work. And he said, you got 4 days. So he gave us 4 days to carve out the people that we wanted.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough, and I hate to say this, but I was lucky enough to deal with a guy that was going to stay in Duke that was more worried about the equipment than he was the people. So I got all the good people.
Yeah.
Because I'd say, I'll take him and him and him. Okay, you know, but these newer trucks, they got to stay with the company. And I'm going, I don't care about the trucks.
Yeah.
I can trade the trucks.
Yep.
I can get newer trucks, but you ain't going to build this talent
That's
that
exactly
I'm
right.
stealing out from under you, and you don't even know it. So I
love
put
that.
together a group of people that, I mean, they were as good a group of people to take into the competitive world as you'll ever find, Thomas.
And they had to be so grateful for the opportunity, right? Because they all knew what was going on. They all knew that downsizing was coming. The industry was doing it across the board.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So I'm sure those people were super grateful for an opportunity to stay with you and build something that meant something, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
First year we were in business, we went in business on Halloween, really November the 1st of 1998. And I took my little daughter and we were trick-or-treating that night, walking up and down the road, and I'm thinking, boy, what have I got myself into starting tomorrow morning? You know, this thing's going to be official. We didn't know anything. I mean, honestly, when you leave a regulated world and move into a competitive world, you don't have that knowledge.
No.
I mean, you really don't have that
You've
knowledge.
never been subjected to that mindset.
You have not. And so the next morning, and we spent a lot of long days and long nights organizing things and trying to figure out how we're going to price stuff. And Charles Irby with Irby Construction, bless his heart, he's gone now, but Charles called me because I'd done business with them before. And Charles called me and he said, what do you need? I said, Charles, I need everything. But I said, right now, I'm struggling with what to even charge for these guys. You know, we're trying to figure this out, or what my equipment rates should be and that kind of stuff. He said, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you an email, and it's going to have all that stuff in it. So he sent me his rates.
That's a huge piece of the puzzle right there.
I mean, and I've always been so grateful to him as a human being, because our friendship was strong enough that he just decided, hey, I'm going to help you out. You're going to be a competitor, but I'm going to help you out. And we're going to give you the stuff. And then, boom, here come Hurricane George down in Key West. Okay. So I took the group to Key West because we didn't have any work much. You know? So the storm hitting down there was like,
that timing was perfect for you guys.
Bring everybody and let's go to Key West. So we went down there, and while I was there, FEMA called and wanted me to fly to Puerto Rico.
All right.
So I flew to Puerto Rico, and that was after Hurricane George did the damage there as well. And we got on board with FEMA, and when the crew got through in Key West, we put everything on a barge and sent it to
the island.
Puerto Rico. We went to the island and a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Because they wanted me, we flew the island and looked at the damage, and then PREPA, Puerto Rican Power Authority, and FEMA were sitting in a room, and they said, how much of this do you want? I said, I want all of it. And they said, you can't staff all of it. I said, I can staff all of it. I can pull in some other companies and staff every bit of this.
Back to the pride and the challenge, right?
Yeah. So I said, but you got to fly the equipment down or barge it down, and you got to get it there. And so they sent that Aeroflot plane to Charlotte. Okay. We loaded equipment on that thing. Actually, flying from the resort that we were at out to the job sites were Black Hawk helicopters.
That's awesome.
And they would get on them, they'd fly them out, and then they'd cable them down to the work site.
That's awesome.
Because a lot of it had to be manual. I mean, you know, the mountains didn't have roads.
No.
So we went through that and enjoyed that. Came back, and 5, 6 years later, Duke sold the company to Shaw Group in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay.
And so I went with the company. They offered me to stay. They said, if you want to stay, you stay. I said, no, I'm going with the guys.
Following what I built. Yeah.
I'm going with the guys.
Okay.
So we went down there and really had a great time working for Shaw, which was owned and run by Jim Bernhardt.
Okay.
I learned more about business from that man and more about risk taking from that man than anybody I've ever been around in my life. I mean, the guy, in my mind, he was a god. I mean,
awesome.
he could read a situation and make a move that would scare the bejesus out of most people that were spending that kind of money.
Yeah. It's a huge risk.
Yeah, but he was confident that, and when Katrina hit, we all got hired by Entergy.
Okay.
And so we took the whole group out of here and everywhere else we had and went down there. And of course, Jim got us a place. And the weird thing was he called me one day because we were sleeping in trucks and tents.
Whatever it took.
Whatever, because nobody had power and most of it was flooded. And he called me and he said, where you at? I said, I'm in New Orleans. He said, go check out the Hampton Inn on Padre Street. I said, okay. And he said, you call me back and tell me how long it take you to get the power back on to that hotel. I said, okay. So I went down and we looked. I called him back and I said, it's going to take us about a day. He said, get it back on because I just bought it for you.
That's awesome.
He said, if you get the power back on, you got a place to stay. And I've retained the staff, so you'll have the cooks, you'll have the maids, you'll have everything for as long as you're down there.
There's a lot to be said about that gesture right there, right? That speaks to the type of person he is.
Yep.
Because in today's world, I don't ever see that happening.
No.
And it might happen behind the scenes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. You just don't see it. And as transparent as everything is with social media and stuff these days, I would say if it was happening, you'd probably see it, right?
Yeah. Jim, about 5-6 years later, Jim decided that he was going to sell the business and Pike was going to buy it.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I had an offer from a equity group up in New York.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to come to work for them, a little company called Argos Utilities. It was a holding company. And they had two really good companies under them, Contracting Enterprise and Richardson Whalen up in Roanoke, Virginia, union and non-union.
Mm-hmm.
River separated them. I mean, one's on this side of the river. I mean, just right there.
Looking at each other. Yep.
Yeah. So I went up there and ran those two businesses, loved living in Virginia, loved Roanoke, loved the people up there. I've never had a bad job. I mean, to be honest with you, I have been so lucky. I've never had a bad job.
But a lot of times, Johnny, I feel like it's the mindset that you carry into the job too, right? You can make a great job a bad job if you have the wrong mindset.
That's true.
That's true. A lot of people get stuck in this rut of, oh, the world's against me. Oh, everything's not what this other guy has. And they look on social media of how great everybody else's lives are and all that highlight reel stuff, right? And they lose track of how good they actually have it in their own backyard sometimes.
That's it. Yeah. I'm going to tell you a quick story, and you can edit it out if you want.
Okay.
But when I got my first real promotion at Duke, they made me a vice president. And that was very uncommon, too, for somebody to come to work on the hooks.
Yeah.
And end up with the vice president's position.
Yeah, the dirt on the boots don't go in that office.
No. And basically, when I was in Greenville, South Carolina, and I was holding a town hall meeting, and a lot of the guys that I'd come to work with sitting out in the audience, and I'm thinking I'm going to get some really interesting questions when this is over. So, I kind of gave my little spiel about what I wanted to create with the group down there and how I wanted them to work together and that kind of stuff. And then I opened it up for questions. And the guy that I knew was going to ask the question, the first question, jumped up.
Here it comes.
And I thought, okay, here we go. And he said, me and you came to work about the same time. I said, yes, sir. He said, We climbed together. I said, yes, sir. He said, we worked in the bucket trucks together. I said, yes, sir. He said, so explain to me how you're up there and I'm back here. That's the easiest question I'm going to answer today. You think it's hard, but it's not. I said, when we both came to work in 1967, we were making the same thing. You came to work for $1.47 an hour. I came to work for Duke Power. And there's a huge difference. I came to work to make this company successful. I came to work to make the people that work with me successful. And I said, you came to work for the dollar. And I said, at any point in time, and I tell a lot of young linemen this, that if you always are working for the dollar, don't be surprised if 30 years from now you're still not working for the dollar.
Yep.
Because you'll make decisions based on the dollar. But if you come to work for the company and you have a mindset that you want to make the company better, that you want to make your people that are running your leadership team more successful, I said, you will not have to worry about the dollar. The dollar will come. You'll never have to ask for it.
That's the mindset that is missing in a lot of the workforce today. They all look out for me in the moment right now. And they're not understanding that if you don't make that business that you're working for at the time successful, they don't need you.
That's it.
And yeah, you can go down the road and get another job, but you can keep going down the road and get another job for the next 30 years too.
That's exactly right.
Because that's what's going to happen if you don't put everything you have into it and do everything you can to make the situation better while you're in it, right?
And if you do that, the money will come.
It follows you.
Because they recognize it.
Yeah.
They recognize that, hey, Thomas is
Yeah.
really helping the business. He's helping me,
It's genuine.
Raise time? Yeah, give him a raise.
Yeah.
Give him a bigger raise than you give anybody else because they look at it and you've earned it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas everybody else is going to get that standard 2.5%, 3%.
That's it.
If they're lucky.
That's it.
But I tell a lot of young linemen that I talk to, and I try to talk to as many as I can. When I was in the line work business, we'd always have schools and I'd go talk to them. And that's the story I would tell them and go, you got to decide what you want to be. You want to be a dollar worker or you want to be a company worker? And if you make the decision to be a company worker, and you can do that anytime in your career, but if you make that decision, you're going to find that getting up in the morning and going to work is so much easier.
Yeah.
Because now you got a purpose. And it's not waiting till your check to come in 2 weeks from now or a week from now. You got a purpose in life, and the purpose in life is, let me help figure out how to do this better. Let me help figure out how to do this safer. Let's make this company a great company, as opposed to I'm not responsible for anybody here but me.
And that genuine drive of having a purpose makes every day so much more fun.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It does.
It flies by, doesn't it?
You'll be so happy.
Yeah.
If you make this transition from the dollar to really trying to help the overall company, I said, your life will change.
That's great.
You will step back. And I can tell you, I can sit here right now. I don't want to name them, but some of the conversations that I've had with people that were doing line work, doing underground work, they're COOs of companies now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're presidents of companies now. I mean, they listened and basically they took it to heart. And I still meet with them sometimes. I still talk with them sometimes, but they're too many for me to name. And I don't want to leave any of them out.
Of course.
Because they were all just, they drank the Kool-Aid.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they started working to make things better.
Yep.
And they started learning.
That's right.
And I give a lot of them, I give away a book to people that I feel like they have all the potential in the world. And they just need a little bit of guidance on how to get to where it needs to be. And the book was written by Zig Ziglar.
Okay.
And the name of the book is See You at the Top.
All right.
And it's not but that thick, but, and it's old now. I mean, Zig passed away 20 years ago, but, or more. But there's so much common sense in that book on how you need to address yourself and present yourself that it's an easy read. I've got one that I have probably read 200 times because I read it over and over.
Yeah.
Because
just to keep that mentality fresh, right?
And I tell them when I give it to them, mark it up. When you read something in this book, you really rings a bell. Highlight it.
Yeah.
Highlight that and go back to it. Make your notes on the pages.
Soak it in.
Yeah, soak it up and then go back later and do it again.
Okay.
And see if you pick up anything different. So, yeah, I just give one young man we're working at right now the book. I call it the book.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, and it's probably as corny as anything could be, but it's full of knowledge. Just basic. I'm gonna give you one before I leave.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. That's great.
I keep a bunch of them.
That's awesome.
Because when I see people that I feel like really have the potential, then I want to give them that just to see if that's enough to take them over that edge.
Light that fire a little bit, right?
Yeah. Light that fire in the gut just a little bit more.
And it's amazing too how much little things like that make a difference to a person. A younger person that's coming up, they feel like they're swimming upstream all the time because most people in society are just doing the easy button, right? Go to work, hit the easy button, make it through the day, go home, go to work, make it through the day, go home. And when you have the drive and you have the passion like you have, you do feel like you're going against the grain all the time. So it's nice to have that reassurance of, man, somebody notices that. It makes them feel good and it makes them be a little more driven.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's so funny. I know that linemen, I love them all. They're great people. They're the salt of the earth. They do a job that most people can't even dream about doing.
That's it.
And they don't even understand what they do. If they did, they wouldn't even dream about it. But in the old days, I call it the old days because it's been a long time ago, and I tell the young guys, listen, when we're talking about safety and stuff, I said, there's not a rule that I haven't broken. And I said, let me tell you why, because there were no rules.
Yeah.
In 1967, there were very few rules around safety.
Yeah, you were doing it before there was a rule about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you hear somebody say, those rules are written in blood, trust me, they are. I saw it. I know they are written in blood. So don't think that's just a saying. It's true. And it's still written in blood today if people don't follow the safety rules and don't follow the processes, don't wear the PPE. We're still writing chapters in blood in this industry. And I've always had a passion that says this, we got to stop this.
Yeah.
Human performance is a great thing. It's a great process to wrap your head around. But the human factor into this thing, the risk-taking factor that's built into this thing is just terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible that you won't take enough time to put your gloves on. You won't take enough time to put your eyeglasses on, your safety glasses. You won't take enough time to get your hard hat on. Next thing you know, you got hit in the head with something, or your eyes put out, or your hands are burned up. And you go, how'd that happen? If you're handling hot conductors, you got rubber gloves.
Yeah.
Why did that
happen? This never happened. Yeah.
It should never happen.
Yeah.
But that's the factor that's in there.
So while we're on that subject, let me ask you this, because this kind of kicks around in my brain a lot, and I really don't have a good answer for it. So I'm going to lean on your experience a little bit here and see what you've got. I feel like a lot of people in our industry, when they sit in those safety meetings and they watch the videos and they sign off on the sheets, they're kind of rolling their eyes, or they're not paying attention. In today's day and age, they're staring at their phones, they're doing whatever, instead of realizing that we're talking about this stuff because someone was killed doing the exact same thing. And they take those shortcuts and they go back out to work and they don't put on the rubber goods that they should, or they're listening to music while they're up there working instead of paying attention to the task at hand, that kind of stuff. How do we get them to own that without having to see it firsthand? Because the only people I know that own it have been there when someone's gotten hurt. They've
Absolutely.
heard that noise. They've heard that,
That's a
right?
terrible sound.
I mean, that's when it becomes real to people in this industry. And until then, I feel like they're so disconnected with the fact that, yes, this job could kill you, that it doesn't even register in their brain.
Well, electricity is a strange character. You can't see it. You can't smell it. It's just there. And you know it's there. And there's layers of protection that you can use to keep it from killing you or hurting you really bad. But it's that. Plus, I'll be honest with you, Thomas. It's also potty training. And potty training ain't learning how to poop and pee.
Okay.
Potty training comes from the older linemen out there that know the job. And if they want to take a young lineman under their wings and bring them along, that person will be very successful. If you've got, I know when I went to work, the older linemen did their best to run you off. I mean, they would bet how long you would last. They would say you won't last a week, you won't last a month, and then they would work to make that happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
And they'd say it right in front of you so you heard them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They'd be rude to you and crude to you and everything else to call you everything in the book, to discourage you and say you don't belong in this industry, that kind of stuff. Now, that has changed a lot.
That has changed a lot.
I mean, thank God that changed a lot, because now you got a lot of seasoned linemen out there that really care. So I think that's one reason that some of the accidents are getting fewer and fewer, but we still got too many. One's too many.
One's too many.
One's way too many. But that potty training that you get out there on the job to follow the rules, ask the questions, be aware of your surroundings, all those kind of things. So many times we miss that teaching moment when somebody's out on the job and something almost happens. That's the time that if you're that seasoned guy, take the leadership, shut it down, and have a 10-minute discussion about, guys, we almost screwed the pooch. I mean, look at this.
We're lucky. Let's talk about why.
We're not calling an ambulance. We're doing this, doing that. So, listen to me, because I'm telling you lessons that I have learned over the years. And I think the more that seasoned lineman can get involved, and the more ownership that we as individuals, that learner individual, can take in learning. I mean, I'll give you a good example. After I went to work for Duke, I was drafted.
Okay.
And I ended up going in the service, drafted by the Army, ended up in Vietnam. But when I went to basic training, myself told me, you better learn this. This ain't a game.
Yeah.
And then when I went to advanced infantry training and jump school, it was like, you better learn this, because this ain't a game.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I honestly believe the only reason I'm sitting here today is because I learned it all. I mean, I did everything I could during that training period of time to listen, to learn, to listen to the guys that had been there, that were trying to tell you what it was going to be like and what you were going to have to do, all those kind of things. So when I hit in country, it was like, dang gum, they were right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a crap storm.
Yeah.
This is something. I'm glad I know how to read a map. I know how to get through a jungle. I know how to talk on the radio. I know how to call in a airstrike. I mean, so you're sitting there, and then the next thing you learn is, if you let that other person make the decision, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make the decision. So I pushed hard to get to be the squad leader and then the platoon sergeant, because I felt like I was making better decisions than the people that were there. So that kind of, at the age of 19, 18, half, 19.
That's a lot.
20, I learned that's where my first taste of real leadership came from,
Okay.
because you made decisions that truly could cost people their lives,
Yeah.
or cost you your life, So it's one of those things that, but but to me, it's preparation. I mean, it's preparation. I had a excuse me,
Mhm.
I had a foreman when I first went to work for the wire gang, and he was from up north, and he was a really good lineman. He was one of the I guess he was the superintendent then, and he brought me books on doing line work. And because we were traveling all over the place, so we were in the hotels at night. And he told me, he said, "You ain't going out at night. You ain't going to these honky tonks. You ain't going to these bars. We're gonna have a class." And he'd come to my room, or I'd go to his room, and we'd cover chapters in that book.
That's awesome.
Every night we'd cover chapters, and he taught me how to wire transformers. I mean, he taught me all this stuff that I wasn't even doing,
Yeah.
but he introduced me to that.
That's awesome.
I mean, and when he passed away, it was one of the saddest days of my life, because he instilled in me a lot of knowledge that way ahead of time, just by him taking an interest in me as a person. And he said, my father died really young, and he told me, he said, "I'm gonna be your daddy, and tonight we're gonna go eat dinner, and then we're gonna come back to the room, and we're gonna cover the next chapter." And that's what we did. I mean, that was the interest that he took, and I guess that's where I got this interest in passing on
Yeah.
to the younger guys. The knowledge that I see people with a lot of knowledge that won't share it with anybody, because they're afraid, if he knows as much as I do, then he's as valuable as I am. And it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just the opposite.
Yeah. In this industry, in my mindset, at least in this industry, you should constantly be trying to make the people you're working with better than you.
Yes.
That way, everybody's always getting better all the time.
Yes.
If you approach it that way, you can't lose.
There's no losing when you help people
That's it.
achieve everything they can. That's one of the things you'll find in the book I'm going to give you, is that you will achieve everything in life you want if you help enough other people achieve what they need.
I love that.
I mean, that's one of Zig's sayings, and it's true. It's so true that if you'll spend the time to help them be successful, you'll be even more successful in life.
That's great. That's great. So let's talk about the next step in your career that you took there, because I know you went from the Duke Power, and you traveled with that company, and you went down south. And how long did you stay down there?
In Baton Rouge.
Yep.
Well, actually, their office was still up here, because they bought the company from Duke. So
Gotcha.
I stayed right here in this area, but
Yep.
But their office was in Baton Rouge, and then I left there and went to Roanoke, Virginia.
Yep. You were up there for a few years.
Then, then I got recruited to um, Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
By Wilbros, which
Okay.
is a company that's gone under now, but by Wilbros, because they had bought a big electrical infrastructure business. They were all oil and pipeline. They bought a big electrical company, and they recruited me to come and run the electrical piece for them.
All right.
And I when they first called me, I said, I got a pretty good gig where I'm at.
Yeah.
They go, "We know, but come and talk to us." So I went out there and talked to them. And I sat down with Randy Harrell, who was the CEO of Wilbros at the time. And man, the story he told me to what he wanted to see, it was a vision.
Yeah.
I mean, it was truly a vision. And I'm sitting there going, I need to work for this guy.
That's awesome.
I need to work for this man right here, because he's telling me something that you don't hear from everybody.
Yeah.
So we worked out the deal right there. And I come back and I turned my resignation in at the other place. I said, I'll give you as long as you want to replace somebody. And they go, no, we'll match what? I said, hey, I'm not leveraging anything.
Yeah. Back to, it's not a dollar conversation, right?
No, it's not about the dollar. I'll be honest with you. It wasn't about the dollar. It was about his vision.
Yeah. Of course.
Because I caught myself saying, I don't work for this
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
I can
He reeled you in. Yeah.
I could learn something from this guy.
That's awesome.
And it ended up being a really good time out there. Met some other good people. Chairman of the board out there was John McNabb, one of the most brilliant individuals I've ever run into in my life.
That's cool.
When it comes to business. And we still stay in touch. I still have an opportunity to meet with John on occasions. And,
that's great.
you know, he's like me. He's getting up in age now, but he's been a friend. You know, I mean, he has been a true friend. And so I did that, and then Primoris bought Wilbros,
Okay.
and then I left Primoris because the Powerline Holdings had been talking to me about coming over there. They were over in Irving, Texas. So I went ahead and made that moved over to Powerline Holdings, and then actually just kind of worked with them. I guess I worked out there with them for maybe 5 years, 4 years, something like that. And then turned around, and I got an offer from NMS, which is an equity group up in Pennsylvania. They're in New York, but they owned a company in Pennsylvania called Treeways,
Okay.
and it was on the maintenance side where you cut the trees and
Yep.
all that stuff away from the power line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been around that my whole life, but I'd never been in charge of it.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay,
Check this out, see what it's
gonna
got.
be different.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 70 years old or 72, whatever I was, you know.
Back to another challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll go learn how to do this, you know. So
That's cool.
so I went to work for those guys and basically worked up there, I guess, for 3 years, and actually got the company set up right. Hired a good COO to come in and be underneath me to be the heir apparent, because I knew it wasn't going to work forever.
Yeah.
And equity groups are going to sell companies. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So I talked to them and said, you know, you don't need a 75-year-old CEO. You need somebody that's younger sitting in this seat before you ever try to sell. So we worked it out, and Buddy Rogers came in and took over the CEO's job. I supported him for a year, and that ended in March of last year.
All right.
And NMS people are super people.
That's awesome.
They are super people. But it's true. You know, if somebody's going to buy a company, they want the leadership to stay.
Yeah.
They don't want to buy. I mean, it's like your company. Yeah. If somebody wanted to buy you, and the first thing you said, well, I'm retiring, well, they're going to turn around and go the other way.
Yeah.
Because they know who holds the company together.
That's the thing. The leadership carries the whole culture, experience, all that stuff is in that leadership circle.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was my last move. In 2000, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Oh, wow. All right.
And prostate cancer that had metastasized to my bones. Not a lot of people know that.
Okay.
But they put me on some great medications, got me involved in a clinical trial with some new medicines. I didn't do the chemo and the radiation.
Mm-hmm.
I took the medicine, still take it today, and I feel great.
That's awesome.
I mean, I get fatigued on occasion.
We all do.
and my oncologist told me one time, I told him, I said, God, it just hits me. I get fatigued. And he says, does it feel like this? And I said, yeah. He says, does it feel like this? And I said, yeah. I'm thinking he's going to tell me something, right? Yeah. He said, well, go sit the hell down. so I said, I'll take you.
Thanks for the insight.
Yeah, I'll take your advice.
That's awesome.
So when I get tired, I go sit down.
Yeah, there you go.
I go stretch out, you know,
Yep.
and it goes away. You know, it's not like it comes and stays.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some of the side effects. But I've had very few side effects. That's one thing that Chad and I share in common is our battle with the C word.
Yeah.
You know?
And another thing, you know, it's kind of like line work. If you're not in it, you don't understand it. If you're not going through that battle with cancer, you don't understand it fully.
Right. That's right.
it hits not only you, but all the people around you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's been my career up to now.
That's
But
awesome.
I have been blessed. I have met super people. I've never had a bad boss.
That's great.
Honestly, I've never had a bad boss. I've been able to work around it, but my mindset was always make that person successful.
Mm-hmm.
And it, Bill Lee, who was the CEO of Duke, one time told me, he said, Johnny, he said, if you work for a bad company with bad leadership, get out. If you work for a good company with bad leadership, ride through it, because a good company will get rid of the bad leadership.
Yeah.
And if you work for a great company with great leadership, you got a home. Stay there.
I like that.
Focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
Stay there.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a very wise man too. I mean, the people that I've had the honor.
Yeah. You've been around some great company over the years.
I have been around some great people and great companies that, and it wasn't that everything was right. Everything wasn't done right,
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that's part of the challenge.
Yeah.
Part of your responsibility, whether you're a manager, a superintendent, a vice president, a CEO, a COO, whatever it is, and even a top journeyman, is to make the company better. Identify what the problems are, and then hopefully you work for good leadership that you can take those problems to and get things changed.
Yeah.
If you can't, then you leave.
That's it. Have your conversations, have the talks, make your point known, and if the mindsets don't align, you can't change mindsets all the time.
You can't change bad leadership.
So you mentioned before that when you're working for the passion and for making things better and not chasing that dollar, that it ends up just being a great situation and good things find you, right? And that's brought you to situations where you've worked all over the globe, not just the United States. You mentioned Puerto Rico. What other place was your favorite place to work other than the United States?
Argentina. Argentina was one of them, but Australia and New Zealand.
That's awesome.
I had the opportunity in Australia back in, I guess it was in like 1992.
Okay.
That the companies in Australia were owned by the state of Australia. I mean, they owned all the power business. And they called me, Duke called me and said they had a request to send somebody down to look at their work practices, their safety procedures. And they said, do you want to go? I said, are you kidding me?
Yeah, you don't say no to that.
Yeah. So how did I get to the flight? Yes, I want to go. So went down there with a small team of people, and we met with the group that had the fatalities. They'd had 2 fatalities in a very short period of time, and both of them were electrocutions. And I was sitting there with a group of linemen, and that, of course, they're enjoying my accent, and I'm enjoying their accent,
of course,
because. And then I asked a question. I said, why do you guys feel like these people were killed? And one goes, we couldn't resuscitate the bloke. And I sat down and I said, what do you say? We couldn't resuscitate him. And I'm going, okay, now tell me what you mean by that. He said, well, there's not a person in this room that hadn't been resuscitated. And I'm going, guys, I don't want to join your club.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with that.
No.
I mean, then I come to find out that the linemen teach the EMT people in Australia how to resuscitate people because they're so good.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah.
But we introduced rubber gloves to them. We redid their work practices, actually bucket trucks, all that kind of stuff, because up until that time, they were doing a lot of their work just off wooden ladders, one-handed with leather gloves. Because if it was any kind of hard work, they just take the line out. Mm-hmm. They just knock the line out. Mm-hmm. But it was the lower voltages that was getting.
Yeah.
It was the low voltage. So So we worked down there, and we helped this one company, and it was a collaborative effort between all the linemen, everybody, and spending time with them and getting their ideas. And so we worked through it, and sure enough, I mean, their safety record started improving dramatically. But we'd go down, and then we'd make another trip down 6 months later and do an assessment to see how they were doing. And Dan Houston, who was a really good friend of mine, would go down too, and their safety record was getting better and better. And then the state of Australia said all the rest of these companies are going to do the same thing, and they're going to do it with y'all. So we ended up working all over Australia doing the same thing.
So you had mentioned that when you started your career, OSHA wasn't a thing, and you saw these safety rules kind of develop over time, right? Was there any specific event that sticks out in your mind that changed how you looked at safety?
I guess I'll tell you a funny story. I mean, we saw people die.
Yeah.
You know, in the very beginning from falls,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the transmission side, we saw people fall and die, and that's very disturbing. I mean, anybody that's ever been through that, and it's somebody that you work with. One of my best friends ever fell out of a tower and was killed immediately. And but when safety started really getting pushed, and it was being pushed because of those issues,
Mm-hmm.
you know, nobody even thought about fall protection because we didn't have belts.
Yeah.
When we were building towers, this was your belt. You wrapped it around the leg
Held on.
and held on while you were putting the bolts and stuff in. You didn't.
That's just what you did.
Yeah, that's the way the job was done. But in the beginning, the new safety guy, Perry Toomey, I love the guy. He's still living, great friend. But he came out one time and he said, "All right, we got some mandates because this is what we wore.
Yeah.
Your ball caps. That's what you had, you know." And it was dirty and nasty and tore all to pieces.
Of
but
course.
It was your ball cap, and had whatever you wanted on it, you know. And they came out and they gave us hard hats. And he looked at it and he said, "You will have this with you at all times." He gave us a little speech about it, and then he left. We tied him to a belt.
Had them with you.
Had him with us.
Yep.
So the next trip out, he said, "Where's your hard hat? You will have it on your head. You will wear it on your heads." So it's like, okay, untie the string, put the hard hat on your head. And you know, this was just culture.
Yeah.
This was just the old culture of being that macho,
Tough guy.
I don't need this, you know. I got a hard head. If somebody drops something on me, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
But so we started wearing them. But as soon as you start going up one of the towers or something, you'd give it one of these and watch it go falling down. And they go, "You want to send it back up?" "No, it ain't going to take me long to do this, you know." So then he come out and he seen us working up the towers without the hats on. It fell off. The wind blew it off. So what the next thing he did? You know those chin straps on those hard hats?
Mm-hmm.
You will have that chin strap
Mm-hmm.
on. And that was the end of it. From
Yeah.
that point in time, it was like, okay, guys,
No reason pushing back now.
we're stuck with these hard hats, and it's the best thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
And then work gloves and safety belts and fall protection. Fall protection is one of those things that Duke really believed in and worked for probably a year to develop a really good fall protection system. And a lot of linemen fought it. And you know, I was in a position at that time that I was already in management, and I'm going, "Guys, this will save your life. And you get paid by the hour. You don't get paid by the tower. So if it slows you down a little bit climbing, then let it slow you down."
Yeah.
You know, I said, to be honest with you, I watch you climb. Then you run up 50 feet and you stop, you know, and you get your breath, and then you go on up to the top. I said, this way you'll climb slow.
Won't run out of breath.
Take a break,
Yeah.
you know, and you'll get there and you'll get just as much work done. 100% fall protection all the way through. And so we debated this thing and debated it, and then we had another lineman fall out of a tower, and then it went into effect immediately. It was like, that's the last one. That's the last one that's going to happen. You're going to wear this fall protection. You're going to use it every day. You're gonna have those two safeties. One's going to hook. You can unhook the other one, move, and then you can hook the other one back and move. But you're going to get used to this because this is a rule. It's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, you will be fired on the spot. That's how hard they had to come down on it. You will be fired. And you didn't want to lose your job because you had a great job.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay.
And I feel like guys still push back on some of that fall protection stuff even today, right? But to be honest with you, I feel like that's one of the best changes that they've made to the industry.
It is by far one of the best changes that's ever happened in this industry, is the fact that you climb safely.
Yeah. What kind of advice do you have to that lineman that is just now coming into a leadership role?
If you're going to be a leader in the business, you gotta care about the people, number one. And I mean that sincerely. You got to care about that person, and you got to be able to understand that person, and you got to be able to also read that person, what's going on in their life right now. You know what's happening. I see a change in you. I see just a little shift in your attitude. Tell me what's going on. I mean, you gotta care enough to kind of want to counsel somebody as well.
Yeah.
To be that person that calls them over to the side or tells them to jump in the pickup truck. I mean, when I came home from Vietnam, I went back to work the second day. I wanted to go back to work. I did not want to.
Yeah. Get me back to normalcy.
Get me back to normalcy. That Duke held my job for me. And the first day I showed up on the job, the foreman I was working for, he said, "Get in the truck." So I got in his truck, and we rode around for like 5 hours. And he was just talking to me.
Yeah.
And he was saying, "Was it bad over there?" And I go, "Yeah, it's pretty bad, Bill." And he goes, "Well, you know what? You're home. And you need to put all that behind you. You need to focus on your job." He said, "Because you got a dangerous job. And don't go wandering off in your brain somewhere else while you're out here working." He said, you gotta stay focused on what you're doing. And that little ride around with him that morning showed me he really cared.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't that person that was just like, "Oh, I'm glad you're back," or "You're back," you know, "Not so glad," or whatever. But he took the time to ride me around and tell me his, it wasn't that he'd ever been to war.
Yeah.
But he was saying he recognized the fact that there's issues with that.
Yeah.
And he said, you need to put them behind you. Work to put them behind you.
And he wasn't doing it in front of a group for a reaction, for clout, none of that. He was doing it as genuine as he could possibly be doing it.
Doing it in the cab of his pickup truck.
That's awesome.
A private conversation.
Man, that's great.
And then he carried me out there to the job and said, "Now go to work."
Yeah.
Yeah, as simple as that.
And that affected you greatly. Don't get me wrong. I know that probably meant the world to you, and I wasn't even in the cab, right? That's also his way of figuring out where you're at.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because like you said, check on your guys. You can have the best lineman in the world on your crew, but he may have just had the worst night of his life with his wife at home, and his kid may be sick or whatever's going on, right?
A death in the family.
Yeah.
And, you know, when somebody loses their father or their mother or their wife or something, it's up here. And no matter what it is, it's there. It's on you. It's on your mind, no matter how hard you fight it.
Yeah.
And if you know that people care and they know what's going on, then you feel more comfortable.
Exactly.
But it's caring about your people, number one.
Okay.
It's helping you people grow, number two, which is I care about your career. I want to give you advice if you're willing to take it. I want to expose you to as much about this career that you have chosen as you can get so that you can progress and go from that journeyman 7 You know, I mean, journeyman
Mm-hmm.
all the way up.
Yep.
You know, you can progress right up and make the top pay. And in the meantime, I'm gonna put you in charge of some things sometimes to give you some leadership
Yeah.
ability to
Like,
test you out there. So it's a combination of a lot of things, but caring about the people and caring about them as human beings is the most important thing you can do.
yeah.
By far, the
Yeah.
most important thing.
In life in general,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
And that's not something you leave at the gate when you go to work.
No.
You take that into work with you, and you just carry on that mindset.
Well, it's like I said, you help enough other people to be successful, you'll be successful.
So, if you had to tell a utility leader in the industry today one thing about the people who work on his team out in the field, that kind of stuff, he's sitting up in the office every day. What would you tell him to do or to relate to, or advice for him as far as his vision towards the people in the field?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I would tell, and I've told many people this,
Okay.
is you got to get out there with them.
Yeah.
Do not sit here in this office.
Yeah.
And do not walk, if while you're in this office, do not walk by a cube without saying hello. You know, you got to present to them that they're human beings and you value them as human beings. But wherever your crews are working, I'll be honest with you. I mean, as a CEO of companies, I went on storms. Number one, I love storms. You know,
Yep.
that's what Karen always told me. You just love to go. You know, you don't have to go, but you just love to go. And I said, well, you're right. I do.
Yep.
But get out there with your people. That's the only way you'll ever understand them. And that's the only way that you'll ever earn respect.
Yeah.
And I say earn respect because respect don't come with the title. I mean,
That's
just
right.
because you're the vice president or you're the manager, that does not mandate that those guys out there respect you. What mandates that is they see that you care about it. And even if you've never been on the hooks, if you'll go out there and show an interest in their jobs, in them as people, and you'll listen to them, and when they tell you that they'd like to have this or that, don't just automatically put a dollar mark on that and say, oh, we can't do it. Listen to them and go back and figure out, can we really do this? I mean, if we can do this, it's going to make their job better. It's going to make their job safer. And as far as the company goes, it's a really good return on investment.
Yeah.
To do that. And when they see that you're listening to them, that you care about them. I mean, one of the things that I used to love to do was load up a pickup truck and ice and full of watermelons. And in the hot summertime, go out and pull up with the crew and let's just bust a watermelon, guys. Let's
Yep.
find a shade tree. Let's bust a watermelon. Let's talk.
You've been in the industry since you were 18. What's the end look like? You're still involved.
I don't. When I die,
Okay.
I guess. You know,
Okay.
I always told people I'm never going to retire, and I shocked so many people in March of last year when I actually did retire.
Okay.
And people would call me and said, "It ain't true, is it? You really retired?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but I got a couple of things I want to do." And I remodeled a couple of old houses that I had, and I sold them. I wanted to get them done and get them. But then I said, you know, my next end game, what I was looking for, is to find a couple good companies that I could serve on the board with and be an advisor to them and try to talk about some of the things that we've talked about today. How do you make your company better? And what are the people thinking out there, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I mean I am probably past running a business, but I'm running one. I took a board position. I'm running part of the business now. So I guess my end, Thomas, is going to be the day I draw my last breath.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna die happy. And
I
I
love
mean,
that.
I have lived a blessed life, a wonderful life, a super great family that we all get together a couple of times a year, all 14 of us, and
That's great.
we just have a really good time. We go on trips together. But I've met so many really, really nice people. I mean, my phone is full of phone numbers that I try to sit down every now and then and just start calling people to check on them.
Yeah.
See how you doing, what's up in your life, that kind of stuff. But I guess, I hope that I can be involved as long as I'm alive.
That's awesome.
And I've always told everybody, I've never been afraid of dying, but I always have been afraid of not being able to live. So I hope when that time comes, it's like I slide in, wore out, and just immediate, done, over.
Yeah.
So.
And you want people to remember all of the good things that you did, right? All the things that you passed on and that'll still be there after you're gone. Like you said, you're pouring into the people around you and the people underneath you. To me, that means more than anything.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a great industry, great people. And like I say, I've got so many friends in this. I'm gonna be honest with you. I got a few enemies.
Of course, and everybody does.
That comes.
Yep.
But I'm gonna tell you, it was always any enemy I've got in this industry are the ones that cheated, they weren't honest, and they treated the people bad.
Yeah.
They're my enemies.
Yeah.
Because if you want to treat a lineman like he's some kind of subhuman person, you ain't my friend.
Yeah. There's no room
and
for
you
that.
never will be my friend. If you want to look at a lineman or anybody working in this industry and respect them for what they do and how they do it every day, you can be my friend.
That's great.
But the other side of that, no. And I won't tolerate it either. If it comes up, I'll shoot you down a heartbeat.
That's perfect.
You don't know what you're talking about. These are great people.
And
they sacrifice every day.
Yeah.
And they work hard every day.
Yeah. That's great. Well, I appreciate the time today. I know it's been a great conversation. I really enjoy you making the time to sit down here and talk to us. And I feel like you're a great example of entry level, mud on your boots, working your way to the top and just having a great perspective about it while you did it. So I also want to thank you for your service, not only to our country, but to the industry. What you've done your whole life is something to be recognized, because I think that passion is hard to find.
Well, I like I say, I've never got up in the morning and dreaded going to work.
That's perfect.
Never. I mean, when you can say that after a 58-year career, that you never actually got up and go, I don't want to go in today. I mean, I always want to be the first one there. Because I do have a passion for it. And it's probably over the top passion for it. But I truly have a passion for the people too.
That's great.
And they're, like I say, they're the salt of the earth people. I got nothing but respect for all of them.
That's perfect.
And it's passion. It's a love for the industry. It's a love for the people that I've been blessed with. But thank you for doing this. I mean, I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
And I hope I've given you
it's great
what you're looking for in this
It's
thing.
a great conversation. And to everybody out there watching and listening to this thing, I hope that you could hear the passion in Johnny's voice as he's speaking, right? He loves what he does. He always has. And if you want to take a step into following that passion and going against the grain, go out and get you that book, See You at the Top, because it has changed his life. And apparently it's something that all of us need to read. Johnny, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's it for today's episode of Power Grid Talks, from the bucket trucks to the boardrooms. I'm your host, Tom Williamson. I want to thank you for joining me as we talk to the people behind the scenes who keep our grid strong. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to hit that subscribe button, give it a share, and leave a review so we can keep bringing more voices from across the utility world to the conversation table. You can also find us at PowerGridTalks.com. Until next time, stay safe and keep the power flowing.